Well, I always begin these conversations with the question, what does the word soul and what does the word purpose mean to you, and how do they relate to one another?
Well, soul is our essence, our truth, our eternal beingness, as opposed to the body and the persona and the biography. It is the part of us that is immortal and perfect, part of something huge and holy, and its own individual expression of that, which is huge and holy and eternal. And purpose is, I guess, our calling. I guess the way in which all that we've learned and experienced and survived and transcended and all of our transformation leads us to a jumping off place where all of this together creates the wings of how we're going to live and serve in this lifetime. Purpose is the reason we're here. Purpose is the reason we were born human, and why we are conscious, and why we are alive, as opposed to what we were, who we were told we were, and who when we pretended to be that person, seemed to make everybody really happy. And purpose is our unique gifts and skills and visions and emanations, finding how to best express and nourish and be nourished.
I was reading in one of your books, you said true purpose is something sort of before you became pretzelized by your parents and societal's influence. I call that the default purpose. But you're speaking to something that goes deeper, that's prior to that pretzelization.
Oh, way prior. Fetal and possibly before that, possibly before we were assigned or assigned parents and assigned a possible biography. It's somehow part of the oceanic beingness of it all, of which we are both a speck and an entire reclaiming of that identity of something so huge and ethereal and lovely, and that is within us and that is us in expression.
Yeah. So for you, is purpose to just be yourself, or does it involve a purpose beyond self? That is to say, to be yourself in a unique way that helps others or helps something in life?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that those two things can be separated, but I think in practical terms, we're talking about the ability of a person to find birth coaches, as it were, to help each of us become the highest, most alive way of being in our individual packages. And I'm a nice Christian girl, and so I've just been at a Hindu retreat, and I think it's the same purpose, is to serve, and the understanding that I share with people of so many different persuasions, that it's in giving that we are filled up and that we receive and that we are restored to original soul, to original being, who we were born to be before it all got its mitts on us and told us that girls should be this way and boys this way, and birth order determined. I'm a middle child between two brothers, and I was mom's big girl helper, and without a tremendous amount of help and healing and recovery and therapy, my default place is to be mom's big girl helper, at the expense of being an artist, which I also am, and to be a seeker, which I also am, and to be a devotee and a dancer and a wild person here, and So purpose, I'm just using purpose in a maybe simple cloth coat way, to quote our old friend Mr. Nixon, that it's who we were born to be.
So, that saying, love, serve, remember, Ram Dass has brought this to us amongst others. So loving is important, remembering God, the mystery is important, but it would sound to me like you're saying that to really live your purpose is to be in a service position.
In my experience, those are the happiest people. But at the same time, one has to do a tremendous amount of work on the codependence and the people pleasing and the desire for everyone to think that you are doing such a great job with your life. And those things are very toxic and very hard to avoid in this culture and in certain of our families. And so, but if I look around and I ask people, oh, what's your life's work, or how do you make a living even, or what's your life about? It will over and over again be spiritual, and it will over and over again be about service and giving and sharing instead of hoarding, or sharing instead of amassing.
Mm.
The happy people are sharing.
Mm. Mm. There was something I was going to point out too. That there can be a pathological strain, I heard you say. Like we can become codependent. We can use our purpose, one, as kind of a little pip on our ego, like, well, here's my grand purpose. And two, it can also be a way of just avoiding life and your wounds and so forth.
It can be a way of mood altering. Yeah, it can be addictive. It can be something that we need to have in order to feel that we're of value. And that's where that makes it all kind of tricky, because I'm very prone to both ways of just this kind of crazy generosity that I have, and I had as a child. I just had a big open heart, and my parents were very left wing and very big government and very civil rights and carrying the message of sharing and generosity. And at the same time, I was raised to be sort of a flight attendant to the world, and to believe that was what my value sprang from. Everybody seeing that I was much smarter, much more sensitive, except that being so sensitive was also a problem, and there were books to address that in the 50s. And but that it's very addictive to need people to think that you are erudite and transcendental and all that stuff. And for me, left to my own devices, without therapy, teachers, and recovery, if 2 or 3 people that are my world are doing really well, then I can be really happy, joyous, and free. And if one of them is struggling or unhappy, or God forbid, unhappy with me, it's very hard for me to find my equilibrium, because that was my original purpose, was to make sure that everybody around me was doing well, and then it was like trickle-down economics, right? And that if Dad was in good shape, then Mom would be happy enough, and then if Mom was happy enough, all the kids could get nourishment. And for Mom to be happy meant that I was big girl helper, and so that both of my brothers were getting tended to. And you might have met my brother at the last my big brother, yeah. And so, that's another addiction. It's just as powerful as drugs and alcohol. It's the people pleasing and the getting our self-esteem from making sure that everybody else is okay, and feeling that we have the power to help them feel happier about their lives and even the catastrophe of their decisions, and to not really be able to relax into the greater truth of goodness and godness and sweetness of life until we get them back on track. And also to feel somewhat responsible for their unhappiness, whether or not someone just broke up with them or they've lost their job or whatever. So, for me, the people who have found purpose have done that work of diminishing the codependent need for everyone else to be happy before they can be.
So how do we, I'll speak for myself, how do I stay grounded and humble in the face of some modest success? So some people say, I found my purpose, I'm embodying it, and my ego goes,
Of course, but that's
You know.
your human stuff. Yeah.
And so you've had a great deal of success as a writer, and so there's this service that's flowing through you. How do you stay grounded in the face of egos trying to take it up like 2 scoops at a time?
Well, I do it the same way you do it, which is, to become aware of it, that it's toxic, that there's the joy of helping people, there's the joy of that communion with somebody where someone has really trusted you, and there's sort of a flow like there can be between me and people in an audience where it's like a tide pool, and I actually feel more fed sometimes than I can imagine they're feeling fed, because the tide comes over me and sloshes around and takes some krill and algae out with it and goes into this big audience, and they're just beaming love or attention, and they're hearing what I say, and they're kind of getting it, or they're laughing, and then the wave of that crashes back over into my little tide pool, and I'm just so fed by that embryonic broth. And but my pastor talks about how complicated the dual citizenship can be, that we're citizens of the big ocean of love and spirit and truth and harmony, and we have these human biographies, and we have partners and kids and old parents and political people and whatnot. And so much of my work has been about self-forgiveness. It's the awareness that I am tripping. And I just heard another pastor talk about saying the Lord's, the 23rd Psalm, in her interpretation is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not trip. And when I'm tripping on other people's approval of me or getting my self-esteem, it's like from an ATM or something, I know it's not going to last. That if it came from outside, it's like having really good chocolate. It's delicious, and I'm gonna get a fix. And then I'll need another one pretty soon. So if you get into that, it's like the rat exercise wheel, and the disease so many of us have of more, and again, like a little kid you're playing with, again. And that being the kid is so beautiful, but being in the more, it just drives you crazy and ruins your life. And so 2 things I think that have helped me clear away the brambles of ego and of bad self-esteem, trying to get a fix from everybody else thinking I'm so great, are this radical self-forgiveness. And I hope I don't forget the other one, because I'm kind of jet laggy, and but it'll come back to me. The self-forgiveness, and then working usually with a person, a therapist or a partner of some sort, in an inquiry into the perfectionism, because that just kicks your butt, and it will win. It will win. And I was raised with that as a goal, and as a teacher of writing and teacher of faith, I have really often begun with the perfectionism, and to say nothing can come of your writing, your speaking, your success, your anything, until you do some healing around this. And I tell my students, like, make more mistakes, make bigger messes. All creativity springs from, as a writer, from messes and false starts, and writing 8 pages that you're not going to use, except at the top of the 7th page is the sentence or the image that you really wanted. And then if you're in the perfectionism, it's frustrating that it took you 3 hours and 8 pages to get to it. But if you're in the truth of life, that it's messy and imperfect, then you go, I got it. It's right there. It's 3 sentences, and there was no shortcut.
Yeah.
When you're a child, it's like, find the shortcut. When you're a child, it's about efficiency. It's about not the mess of you and the humanness of you not showing, and that kind of that ingrained forward thrust of American success of keep moving forward. Well, you can't. It doesn't work that way. And so I always tell my students, go to the Special Olympics if you want to see how life works, because in our world, in the non-Special Olympics world, if we're in a race and someone falls down, we're secretly glad. Or somebody on the baseball field has an injury, we're secretly glad they can't do as well. And at the Special Olympics, if somebody falls or spaces out and takes off their shoes, everyone else goes back for them, and they start off again together. And so to get those two sentences or that one image at the top of page 7 is to celebrate, and that's new teaching. That's like we have to unlearn so much to get to. And I saw that in the article you wrote that so much of discovering our purpose is unlearning what others said it was. And it's awful to unlearn. It's awful to kind of not know what you're doing. I love to know what I'm doing. Even to have a dumb assignment, like I'm going to clean the closet, I'm going to clean the shelves of the laundry room. It gives me such a feeling of safety. And finding your purpose is a commitment to giving up some of the safety for a little more of the freedom and a more of the authenticity. But if you say to someone, are you willing to feel less safe? Well, I feel plenty unsafe. I'm good on unsafe. Yeah, I know. But what I can offer, and I can promise actually, is freedom and authenticity. Okay.
I can almost hear the people on YouTube going, but wait a minute, can't I have both? Can't I have the safety that I've already accrued, or the clump of it that I have already, and discover my purpose, and listen to and heed my calling? Can't I have both?
Well, the safety is an inside job, and so anything that you've accrued that came from doing well in the world is an illusion. It's ultimately not going to hold up, which I hate to say. And it's like when the Buddhists say, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? It's like, can I be both? Because I feel that I am right, or I would have different ideas and opinions, and then those would be the right ones. And I want to be happy, and I'm happy when I'm right. I'm happy when everyone else can see that I'm right. But can I be safe? Being safe is an inside job. It doesn't have to do with a report card or I haven't had a job in 40 years, but when the employer does a review, maybe it's called, and they do
review.
Yeah. And they review you and they say, this is good and we appreciate this, and this continues to be a disappointment. Well, that's a review most of us get if we do a review of our lives when I'm 64 now, and some of it's a disappointment. I still screw up right and left, and I squander this precious, precious time, this precious present in both senses of the word present. And but those reviews, getting a good review, it's an illusion. It's crazy, because the only safety is that radical self-love and that radical self-acceptance, and one's own birth coaching of, I get to screw up more. I write these Facebook things and they come out about maybe 1,000 words, maybe 800. I never count them. And they take me 2,000, and I have to write terrible first drafts. And they're Facebook things, They're not even published per se, I don't think. I think they're posted. Sam, my son, would be able to tell you the difference, but I have to be there with my best friends. I would be like this. I'd be this way with you, I'd say, Jonathan, this is going to be great. Do it again for me. It's too long, and the whole first page is clearing your throat. And in the middle of the second page, what you say is your intention, which is another word for purpose, right? My intention is to share the exhilarating possibility that we give up some of our bulwarks and our armor and the illusion of safety to become more authentic, more human. We were raised not to be that human. Human shows that you're kind of a mess. You're neurotic and you're a nerd. You're different than. I was a tiny, tiny person. I looked different. I was smarter than everybody. And that doesn't make everyone in the class love you. and I was and I looked funny, and I was very shy, and everything said, well, you got to get thicker skin, right? I don't know if you were a shy child, but if you were sensitive, and your parents had the book The Overly Sensitive Child, grown-ups, even that didn't even know you, would say you've got to get thicker skin, which is another way of saying if you were an entirely different person, we'd be a lot more comfortable, right? And so to find your purpose and intention means that understanding that the people who taught you were wrong, and the people who really were pulling for you to have joy and to find your niche in this world gave you a lot of stuff that didn't actually work for them, but it was all they knew, so they passed it on. I have to get a thicker skin. Well, the reason I'm a creative and I'm a devout spiritual seeker is because at some point I found other grown-ups, and they said, what I am telling myself now, what I would tell any of my students is, oh no, the less armor you're able to put on, the more you can celebrate that thin skin and celebrate it by rubbing lotions into it and exposing it to the air and exposing it to the sunlight and to other people's eyes, the more you're going to feel that you're really here and that you're really living up to this debt of honor with you and God and life with a capital L, to live wholly and hugely and wildly, like you, to get the Charlie in the chocolate factory, to get the golden ticket, less armor, more screw-ups, more falling down. People will help you back to your feet.